What's going on, everybody? This week on the Atlantic Files, we are talking about Jaylen Brown for Ben Simmons. We're talking about Jokic versus Morris in a street brawl. We're talking about the COVID running through the whole Sixers organization, the Knicks slowing down, and much more. Make sure you check out the rest of the episode. Thank you guys for watching.
The following podcast is part of the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. For advertising information or to find more great podcasts, visit us at www.theunderdogsports.com and follow us on Twitter at RealTheUnderdog.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Atlantic Files, the number one podcast on the number one division in the NBA, brought to you by the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. As always, joined by your host, we have myself, Alex Fishbein. We got Dennis Clausen, a.k.a. Dennis Stradamus. What's going on, Dennis?
It's got a nice ring to it.
It does have a pretty good ring to it. I'm not going to lie. It's an easy intro. Rolls right off the tongue.
That's right. Mike, go ahead.
I was just going to say this week we're without Mike. Mike had some traveling to do and I don't even know what else he had to do.
And when he means by traveling, he means he went to Thailand for a sex change finally. So I wish him all the luck in the world with that.
We know we know Mike will be back, so we'll see what we have next time.
That's Michaela.
But anyway. So let's just jump right into things. Let's start off with probably what has been the biggest news of all. The former and reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic, getting in a fight with Marcus. It was Marcus, right? Not Markieff?
Markieff.
Oh, it was Markieff. Okay, Markieff Morris. Morris hit him with a forearm that sent him a little bit. Jokic came right back and just clobbered him over the head pretty much, and he fell right to the ground like a sack of bricks. Obviously, both teams getting into a fight. If anyone hasn't seen the video by now, I mean, please just go YouTube it. It's everywhere.
After
Jokic
you go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel.
Yes. And especially if you're watching on YouTube already, make sure you're subscribed, then go look at it. And Jokic's brothers apparently made a Twitter account and said, like, we're coming for you guys. Jokic's brothers obviously are they look like they're in some sort of Serbian gang. But so really it's a whole big conglomerate of it's pretty much bad news. If there wasn't security guards and beefed up security that like now compared to like it was back in the day, it probably would have been a second Malice at the Palace if like the Jokic brothers were there. So, and even Butler told them to meet him out back. The team tried to get into the locker room. They were blocked off from the locker room, blah, 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 blah. I mean, this whole thing is crazy. I like it just because it's some good drama for regular season when we're starting to get into the regular season of like, all right, let's see what we got. There's going to be some doldrums of the regular season. This is some good drama. I mean, it's some must-see TV.
Well, it did have that Malice feel to it.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly guys getting into it. And then the after effect of Jimmy Butler baiting anyone to come in and take him on. It was amazing. Like that's the stuff like I miss about professional basketball when we have the days of guys on the banana boat and guys hugging and kissing each other and everybody's best friends with each other and everybody's trying to team up and build super teams. It is so nice to see this type of stuff. So my takeaway from that was Markieff Morris is an idiot. All right. And not only is he an idiot, what a complete pansy afterward. So he goes up to Jokic, takes a dirty shot on a guy who's over 7 feet tall. And he's not like a skinny 7 feet tall. He's like,
not Nerlens Noel.
No, He's like a combination of like muscle and fat, depending upon what month it is throughout the winter. I mean, we know Jokic is a big man. We know he can let his weight get out of hand. So regardless if that's functional strength or not, that's still a ton of weight. Markieff Morris and the Morris brothers are big boys. However, Jokic is one of the biggest guys in the entire NBA. So not only was he stupid for going up against Jokic, he was stupid for trying to be dirty and hit him from behind. And then when Jokic got up and retaliated and basically just let him have it, which he deserved, then he laid there and bitched and complained the entire time. So Morris looked like a pile of crap after doing that. Not only was he dirty by hitting a guy from behind, then after he got his retaliation, he laid there on the floor like a wimp, on the court like a wimp. So that did nothing, no favors for him. And then Jimmy Butler was trying. Honestly, if you look at the guys that are on the Nuggets roster, I mean, Jeff Green, you got Jokic, and those are the two guys off the top of my head. Aaron Gordon looks like he can probably handle himself really well. I don't think anybody on the Heat, maybe Haslam 10 years ago when he was 40 and now he's 50. Bam is a big guy. But other than that, Tyler Hero's there talking crap, hanging out behind all the big guys. So it's not, the Heat don't want to go in that direction.
No. There was a lot of fake toughness out of the Heat in that moment too. Like Tyler Hero for a second, like got into Jokic's face and then was just kind of like, all right, I said like, hey, don't do that. And then he backed off. And then even after that, it's like before the Heat had, he's now on the Nets, James Johnson. Like that guy was one he didn't want to mess with.
Yeah. Like that's what I'm saying. They got to realize they don't have James Johnson anymore. A guy who's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, black belt or whatever he is. They don't have that.
And like I would say they're like you just said, they're two probably like scariest guys are Morris and Haslam. Haslam especially because he doesn't care if he gets suspended because he's not playing anyway. So like Haslam is just Haslam's just like, oh, I'll go fight for my team because it doesn't matter if I get suspended the next game or not. But then even when Butler was like trying to yell at him about like, oh, meet me in the back, whatever, he was like, he like walked up and then he backed up and then he kept like just walking in circles and backing up and like yelling at the same time. I'm like, are you mad and about to try and get into something or not? Because you keep backing away. So you got to pick one.
He knew what he was doing. He didn't want none of that. And Hero is the ultimate opportunist because he knew that there were about 90 guys around Jokic. So he took his opportunity to look like a tough guy against a guy who's 7 feet tall. He didn't want any of that, but he just wanted a safe face. You know what I mean? So Haslam's like, I'm going to show you kids. And, he's going out there, wants to fight 20-year-olds, 23-year-old guys, which, I mean, he's probably the scariest guy they got, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. But I also agree with the sentiment that, like, it's nice to finally see people genuinely, like, competitive and going at it. I'm not saying that I want to see people, like, actually cause harm to each other and hate each other.
I do.
Well, to an extent. I don't want, like, a huge injury or anything like that.
No, I want to see it.
Okay. But it's like it is nice to see that just because, like you said, there's so many people now, they go up against each other and then right after the game it's like, hey, let's swap jerseys, let's be best friends, let's talk about it on Instagram, how it was so cool playing against you and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, I get having friends that play in the league, but like save it for the off season. During the season, being buddy with everybody to me is just weird. It's like you're supposed to go up against these guys and then you're buddy with them the whole time, and you expect anyone to believe like during the game, if you get like upset at someone and there's like some shoving, that like you really even are about that kind of life or anything like that. Like it doesn't make any sense. And not only that, it makes for a better game. At least a more entertaining and a tougher game to actually see them like really going at each other head to head. It was like when Giannis talked about playing in the All-Star game, when everyone was just like, "Oh, here you go, have a dunk. Oh, here you go, shoot a three." And Giannis is like, "No, I came out here to compete, so I'm going to do the best I can and beat everybody."
Right. And that's
Like,
why nobody likes the All-Star game, because it's a joke. The score is like 200 to 196,
yeah,
and it's a joke.
exactly. Like the fact that they have to say, "Okay, guys, in the fourth quarter, we have to actually try." Like that in and of itself is sad.
Yeah,
And
it's a waste of time.
exactly. And I just like I not saying again that I don't want like every game to turn into Malice at the Palace, because we would probably have no more NBA because everyone would be suspended.
We're about
I
due for something like that, though.
I mean,
It's
it
been too
has been
long.
a while.
It's been too long.
True. But it is nice to just see, like, kind of like I always loved seeing Embiid versus Westbrook, because those two genuinely hate each other.
Loathe each other.
Yeah. Like that was amazing. Even last night, I was at the Sixers game and B-Ball Paul blocked Giannis, and B-Ball Paul had some words for him and like got in his face, and Giannis was just like, "Who's this guy?" Which admittedly is a good reaction because Paul Reed hasn't really played all that much, but it's just nice to see that kind of stuff. Just like the trash talking, the getting in people's faces, the like if you get blocked on one end, go and dunk on them on the other end, stuff like that. Like that's the kind of stuff that people come to see. That's the thing. That's the stuff that people come to watch. Because honestly, if there is none of that in the NBA, say it's all buddy buddy and like there's some dunks, whatever, then what makes a difference from that compared to like any other basketball ranging from Pee Wee to middle school to high school to WNBA to whatever? It would all be the same.
Yeah, that's what professional sports are missing in general, is that edge to it. The guys aren't competitive like they used to be. The
Right.
best baseball games are the ones where the bench is clear and guys are beating the shit out of each other. The appeal to the National Hockey League is the fact that the guys beat the shit out of each other, and that's frequent. And a
True.
lot of these times it's guys are bleeding, they're losing a tooth. Like that's why hockey has that a lot. It's like watching NASCAR. You don't really watch NASCAR, watch cars driving around in circle. I mean, yeah, there's strategy, you got to pit at a certain time, blah blah blah. However, people want to see a wreck. That's just how it goes. Same thing with
Exactly.
basketball. The other day when Isaiah Stewart, I believe it was, and Blake Griffin, they got into it at when the Nets were playing the Pistons. They got
Mhm.
into it, and that was in Detroit. Griffin was coming back. Obviously, the people in Detroit were letting Blake know exactly what they thought of him, which was fine. And then him and Isaiah Stewart, like they got into a tussle. I thought Blake Griffin was going to go in for a double leg takedown on Isaiah Stewart. They broke it up, but you could see that they were getting a little bit more aggressive with each other, especially on box outs and things like that. That's the type of thing you want to see.
Yep.
Not this, hey man, we're going on a banana boat. You want to like that is a joke. Nobody wants to
I
see
agree.
that.
No, I agree. And I will say, I will give Trey
Banana
Young
boat.
his props. In the playoffs, Trey Young was one of the biggest ones talking trash, like really letting people hear it. I mean, embracing the role of villain against the Knicks and taking a bow in Madison Square Garden and everything. Like that was fun to watch. Even if you were a fan of the opponent, a fan of him, or just a neutral fan, it was fun to watch that kind of stuff. Like I forget. I think it was it was either 2 years ago or last year when Embiid, Simmons, and Karl Anthony Towns got in a fight, and like Simmons had Cat in like a chokehold and everything. Like that kind of stuff is just fun. It's just really it's just like it gets everyone going from the team to the fans to everything, and it makes every time you play that team that much more exciting and like more on the line, especially in the regular season. Like playoffs, that intensity is always there because it's the playoffs. But like regular season, it's all buddy buddy pretty much.
Yeah, it needs
And
to happen a lot more. It needs to happen. Guys need to. That's good stuff right there. And the more
yeah.
guys are swinging at each other, the more suspensions we see. I can't get enough of it. I'm not gonna lie. I want to see, who doesn't want to see two guys who are 6'8" plus fighting.
True.
There's not.
It's like
one,
watching a heavyweight boxing fight.
Yep. There's not one person on the planet who wouldn't want to see those two guys go at it. And honestly, who wouldn't want to see Jokic and his brother square off against the Twins?
True.
Like that's got a tag team championship caliber match right there.
Exactly.
Like that's
and
WrestleMania stuff right there.
And with all these celebrity boxing matches going on now, with all these people coming out boxing, like throw them into a boxing match.
I want to see it so bad.
Yeah. Like
and
even...
I want to.
Sorry, go ahead.
I want to see Westbrook and Embiid finally go at it. Because I honestly think Westbrook will be able to hold his own against him for a little while at least.
Probably.
Kick him in the knee. But and then Embiid the other night in Chicago when he did the wave to the crowd. That was good.
Yeah, exactly.
For
just
that
anything like that.
For that one moment, I actually liked Joel Embiid, and then I realized I hate him again.
But it was like, what was that? I forget if it was the playoffs or whatever when Lillard hit that huge shot against I think it was Russell Westbrook in OKC, and he waved to their crowd and everything.
I mean, which one?
Well, yeah, true.
Lillard's been before this year. Lillard like wasn't missing anything. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but Lillard and Westbrook is another good rivalry matchup.
Westbrook against anybody is a fantastic rivalry, and that's why he's one of my favorite players, because he's one of those like old school. I hate everybody. I hate reporters. I'm in a bad mood. I don't care. Like that's the type of player we want to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and there really is so few of those types of players left, like Westbrook, Butler, and then after them, it's kind of like, I mean, Giannis isn't like the mad type, but he's the one that's not like friends with anybody. He's going at every single person. And then after them, it's like none of the stars are really that way anymore. It's normally like Pat Beverly and those type of guys that then do the same thing. But a lot of the stars are all buddy.
I mean, LeBron and KD have got into it, but LeBron can't. KD will tear an Achilles again if he gets into anything, and LeBron will break a hip or tear his groin. So, and Anthony Davis is one strong wind gust away from missing the next 3 months. So,
exactly,
that ain't happening.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know.
I do know. I love it. I want to see more of it.
Oh yeah, no. I agree. I'm just like, it was nice to see, and especially because if you told me that there was somebody going to get in a fight with one of the Morris brothers and like the other person being like a star, I would not have guessed Jokic.
No, but he's definitely the last guy on the list you probably want to square off against.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the guy's built like a bear.
It's cold in the winters there. You know, he's like the wingspan on him's about 15 feet, so he could punch him from the locker room and still connect.
Exactly. Like it's insane. But
I mean, let's be like, I get it if he was going to be like tough about it and like get up after he got pushed and like go at it, I would have had respect for it. But the fact that he gave him a cheap shot And then after he finally got his what was coming to him, which Jokic getting suspended is bullshit, by the way. But he finally, went back at him, and then he laid there like a little wimp.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it said he's out this coming game with whiplash.
Damn right he's got whiplash.
That's the first time I've ever seen anybody out of a game due to whiplash in something other than like football.
And Markieff Morris is probably, once his brother got shoved and he got nailed in the back of the head, he was probably going, why is my head hurt? Because they're probably, they could feel each other's pain, and yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
I tried.
No. It's like voodoo dolls, your Dennis Stradamus.
That's where I was. Yeah, whatever.
But so moving on, let's talk about the other big news. Shams.
Jenna Jameson's coming back.
I mean, you would know more about that than me.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that's not my era.
Yeah, okay. All right, go ahead.
Anyway, so Shams has talked that there were talks between the Celtics and Sixers about Ben Simmons possibly getting traded to the Celtics. Now, Daryl Morey asked for in return Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, and a first-round pick.
Good for him.
I mean, that would be quite the haul if the Celtics actually said yes to that. But say they just did Simmons for Brown straight up. Who wins the trade?
The Sixers for sure. They definitely win that trade. Jaylen Brown's a lot better player than Ben Simmons is. At least he's showing it right now. He's scoring well. He's playing well. He had a bout with COVID, and now he's going to be out for the next week to 2 weeks and things like that. But the Sixers would certainly win that trade, of course. But that's not going to happen. From the last reports we've seen, there's been more movement in the Ben Simmons and Sixers. They're rebuilding their relationship. They're moving in the right direction. Simmons isn't getting fined anymore, especially after he went in front of everybody and said he's dealing with some stuff. So the Sixers were upset because kind of Simmons wasn't really letting the team physicians into his type of, he was being handled by his own team of doctors, but now finally Simmons is being more receptive toward getting help from like actual team doctors and mental health professionals and things like that. So they appear to be moving in the right direction, and I think it's going to be inevitable before Ben Simmons is going to be back on the court in Philly.
True. I mean, I was actually a little surprised you said Jaylen Brown would be the better person in the trade because of how highly you usually talk of Ben Simmons.
No, I understand that, but I'm also not stupid. I know that Jaylen Brown is playing at a phenomenal level right now.
True.
Him alone for Ben Simmons isn't enough, especially for Ben Simmons, who has his struggles, especially for the Celtics, who really don't have that many options on the offensive end. So adding Ben Simmons really is not going to do anything good for them.
True.
So and then you're going to give up Marcus Smart, and you're going to give up who else did they want? Time Lord?
Robert Williams.
Yeah, so they're not going to give him up. And then a first-round pick. I don't blame him for hanging up the phone.
Oh, yeah. I don't either.
If Brad Stevens made that trade, he should be fired immediately.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, that is a ridiculous amount of stuff for Ben Simmons. And I also agree that if they did it straight up, Ben Simmons for Jaylen Brown, Sixers win that trade pretty easily, especially because when you look at both teams, the Celtics don't really have a true point guard. They don't have a guy who's really running the offense, a floor general. They don't have a guy that's their main distributor. Marcus Smart isn't exactly that guy, even though he was technically a point guard in college and when he was drafted. Ben Simmons would at least give them somebody who can facilitate and actually like run an offense. But on the flip side, for the Sixers, Jaylen Brown gives them the exact wing scorer that they've needed for so long. And Maxey has been playing his ass off lately. So, yeah, that trade would easily be in favor of the Sixers. And Jaylen Brown, I mean, like you just said, has been playing some amazing basketball lately. So I also agree. I don't blame the Celtics at all for just hanging up and being like, yeah, get the hell out of here. But with the whole Simmons coming back to the Sixers thing, I mean, it definitely is just an inevitable thing of like, hey, we just want you to get on the court to show that you can actually still play basketball, and then we'll trade you. I mean, that's all I see is going to happen, especially with how much the players keep talking about how their chemistry this year has been off the charts. Like their chemistry has never been this good. They've never had this much fun as a team, all this kind of stuff. Like that each player from Joel Embiid all the way down to George Niang has been saying that in all of their post-game press conferences.
Right. And
So
yeah, they are, I mean, sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, they are playing well for a team that has had as much issues, injuries, off the court stuff with Ben Simmons, but I don't think Ben Simmons makes them worse, especially if you
no,
have a Ben Simmons who's Ben Simmons. I mean, he is a good player regardless.
That's true. I don't think he makes them worse either. I just think with how their relationship is now between him and the team, not just like him and like Daryl Morey and and Doc Rivers, but like him and the actual team who like when the team tried to come out and visit him, he said no. Everything that Joel Embiid's been saying about how like, look, I'm not a babysitter. Like, I'm done with this guy. Like he's just wants to do him and not do anything for the team, blah, blah, blah. Like after all these things that have been said, I just find it really hard to think that Ben Simmons is going to actually stay with Philly for the long term.
Well,
so that's why I think they're just going to have him come out, show he can still play. The moment like he builds back up some of his value, then they're going to trade him away.
Well, I disagree with that because I think at this point in time, there's really not a team in the league who wants to deal with that, especially after what he's done over the past 3, 4, 5 months in terms of him just going MIA and not acting like a professional in some people's eyes, on top of his deficiencies on the offensive end. I don't think there's a team in the league who really wants. There may be a few, but not enough to where Ben Simmons is going to get traded. I think the Sixers know that they have 4 years left with this guy and they're paying him a ton of money. And as much as I love Ben Simmons, there are other people in the league who could be getting paid the amount that he's getting paid and produce a lot more. So I think finally too, with the team saying, okay, we're not going to fine him. And then they kind of dangled him out there to try to get trades. And when no team was biting, I think they're really realizing, oh shit, we're stuck with this guy. So we got to fix this because it's not doing us any good to not have him on the floor. They realize that. Mm-hmm. So I don't think any team wants him. I think Philly's now at the point where they realize that he's not going anywhere. So we need to fix this and we need to get him back on the floor. And even if he does start playing well, which he's going to because he's talented, he's not a bad player. He's going to play well. He's not going to be shooting 42% from three. He might take a couple more 3-point shots to shut everybody up. But at the end of the day, even if he plays well, there's not a team in the league who's going to want to deal with the headache of a potential Ben Simmons temper tantrum moving forward.
I mean, I agree, especially. Well,
I know.
I agree in part. I think that none of the teams who are going to be playoff ready anytime soon would have any interest in him. But I think somebody along the lines of like a Houston, in Orlando,
Well, Orlando
uh,
would take anybody right about now.
well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think teams like that would probably be willing to actually give it a shot, especially like a lot of those kind of teams have, their this next draft coming up. It looks like they're going to have a top lottery pick again. Say they add Ben Simmons, and then the next guy they get in the lottery is another like wing scorer or even a top big man, whatever it may be. Then you compare those two together and get the ball rolling.
Yeah,
But
but
go ahead.
no, I was going to say, but yeah, there would be teams that would gladly add him, but the price tag, for one, the teams that would be interested aren't looking to spend that kind of money. And then two, with the amount that the Sixers apparently want back in return for him, who the hell's going to do that?
I mean, that's also a good point. And I'm wondering if just right now they're like, all right, we're gonna try and get everything we can for him. And then finally, after a certain point of time, I'm really wondering if Daryl Morey is just gonna be like, all right, this is like one of the best deals we got. We're pulling the trigger finally. Like, say Orlando was to say, I know that Morey originally said like we want an all-star caliber player in return plus like a young player or something like that. But when it comes to Orlando, say that, since they drafted a whole slew of guards, that they decide one of the guards they drafted they're ready to give up on early because that's what Orlando does. They give up on talent all the time. They're like, hey, Cole Anthony or Jalen Suggs.
Dang, they're not
Or
giving those guys up.
I like, just in theory though, like if they hit that point, I feel like that would be something that Morey would just be like, oh yeah, we're doing this,
I
instead of
think
demanding more and more and more.
Morey's going to be gone before Ben Simmons is going to be gone.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. Ben Simmons not going anywhere. There's not like I said, there's not a team in the league who's looking to spend that kind of money for a guy with as much shortcomings as Ben Simmons has. As much as I love him, he doesn't. He only fits in a certain. There are certain teams that he fits in with based on his play style that would actually make them better, and a lot of the teams that that would even entertain that aren't looking to give up anything, especially when they know what the potential is based on his actions throughout the off season.
True. Here's a question. Which side would say no in a trade? Ben Simmons for Davion Mitchell, Harrison Barnes, and Marvin Bagley.
That would be the only place that I could see that. But the Kings, I don't think the Kings want to spend that kind of money either.
I mean, they do have some money tied up in De'Aaron Fox, obviously. And then they're going to have to pay Halliburton in like a year or two.
Yeah, the Kings would be the only team that would, but the way Davion Mitchell's been playing, especially lately, with his how well he's been playing and the amount of minutes he's been getting, I don't think he would be, and I don't think Harrison Barnes and Marvin Bagley would be enough for Philadelphia to be enticed. Harrison Barnes is getting older. Marvin Bagley is a pain in the ass, just like Ben Simmons is. He's also very injury prone. And I don't see that being enough to where it's going to move the needle to where, I mean, if the Kings could make that deal happen, like maybe for Buddy Hield, which for some reason they want to get rid of all the time, Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley, and Harrison Barnes, maybe, and maybe some picks, maybe.
Right.
But that's not enough.
True. Yeah, that's why I'm thinking, like, if the Sixers were to pull the trigger on a trade with Sacramento, I feel like Morey would want one of either Fox, Halliburton, or Mitchell.
Yeah, Fox isn't going anywhere. Fox is now at the untouchable stage.
Yeah.
The
and
window,
at this point, it sounds like Halliburton's pretty untouchable for them, too.
Their whole team outside of Harrison Barnes and Bagley should be untouchable because they have such a good young group of players that they can move around. Buddy Hield can move into the forward spot if he wants to. Like they're not a bad team. So I just don't think that's enough to entice them to want to take on Ben Simmons.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely gonna be rough trying to get rid of Ben Simmons and who will actually take him. So
that's what I'm saying.
It's gonna be no, I definitely agree with that. I don't think it's gonna be easy. It just the way that everything's been playing out, I was just saying, it really seems to me that they at least think if he plays well, people will want him. I feel like that's what they think.
The people who could have had him, there's really nothing else that you're going to see from Ben Simmons that's going to change how people feel about him other than the fact that he actually gets on the floor, not in terms of seeing what he can do from a play level, but more of a mental health standpoint. There's really nothing that he's going to show anybody outside if he starts shooting 48% from 3-point that's going to change anybody's opinion on him. The window has closed on anybody who would want to take on Ben Simmons at this point in time. Anybody who's wanted Ben Simmons and made an actual offer for him could have probably had him at this point. The fact that there's been such little movement in regards to that, it has made it known now that Ben Simmons is not going anywhere. And the fact that they're getting to the point to where they're trying to appease him by not finding him and getting him with their mental health professionals and doctors and getting involved and trying to, mend fences and things like that. Ben Simmons is not going anywhere. They realize that they're not getting anything for him. So, so Ben Simmons is going to be staying in Philly.
Yep, I'm just interested to see what happens as the season plays out. So we'll definitely keep tabs on that, obviously, because it's going to be in the news probably for years. So moving on to one of the other Atlantic
Ben
teams.
Simmons farts, it gets in the news. Like they love talking about him.
Exactly. I mean, right now the news is kind of dominated. I mean, before the big fight, it was dominated by the moment Kyrie did anything and the moment Ben Simmons did anything. So it was always one or the other. The Knicks, though. I got to see them.
I thought we were segueing into Kyrie.
No.
But I saw you put the thing up, so.
Yeah, no. Kyrie's still waiting to play. The new mayor-elect or whatever isn't changing the rule for the vaccine, so we still got plenty of time to wait on Kyrie.
Which I know, but can you change the thing so we can just talk about him for a second? Or
no? Yeah, we can talk about him right now. Sure.
Yeah, we'll change it. Put Kyrie. I like when the thing's on the bottom. It makes it official.
There you go. There we go.
All right. So here we go. Yeah, so as you said, the new mayor doesn't plan on changing the vaccination rules. So now we have a little stalemate going on between the league and New York City, basically. New York City saying, hey, you guys figure it out. And the NBA saying, we don't have to figure anything out because your city's the one that has these rules in place.
Right. And the issue is, too, it's like the NBA is looking at New York like, well, we had no issues with our other teams in California that also had similar things going on. So the issue is New York. So it pretty much is a stalemate right now. And it's kind of just like, I feel like at this point, you just got to look at Kyrie and it's like, dude, if you actually want to help the team, just get the vaccine. Like, it's really nobody's grown a third arm. Nobody's grown a third eyeball. Like, at this point, it's been over a year since the first vaccines went out. A lot of the people that got the first vaccine were a lot of the medical field people that haven't had adverse issues from it unless you were allergic to something in the vaccine. If he came out and said, I'm allergic to something that's in the vaccine, that'd be completely different.
Yeah, if he said I can't have eggs or something like that, whatever the hell's in that thing.
Yeah.
But now it's at the point. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. I was just going to say the same thing pretty much.
But now we're at the point now where if he gets it, he's going to look like a bitch.
I mean, it's true, but I feel like also if he just gets it, it just shows he actually wants to get back to playing basketball.
Yeah, well, it goes back to the Andrew Wiggins thing when Andrew Wiggins wasn't too crazy on the idea of getting it. And now he basically said, I didn't want to, but I realized that I need to help my team win. So, I mean, basically, he looks like a hero now,
Right.
especially since the Warriors are looking like one of the best teams in the league.
Exactly.
And the fact that Andrew Wiggins was willing to inject himself with something he didn't agree with to get back on the court to play basketball, it didn't really make him look weak. It actually made him look more courageous, you know, and he let it be known, okay, I don't want this, but I need to get on the court to help my team win, so I'm willing to do it. If Kyrie took that stance, which I think now that we have a new mayor, I think he was kind of waiting on the fact that we're going to get maybe a new mayor who might lessen the restrictions a little bit. But I now that they have a new mayor elect who's going to keep the same rules enacted that have been going on for a while, I think he realizes, okay, shit, I'm not going to get out of this one. So I think with that election, we're going to be seeing some progression here with all he needs is one shot. And once he gets one shot, he could play again.
Yeah.
So get Johnson & Johnson on the phone and get an injection and let's go.
Exactly. And like people talked about at first saying how like Wiggins was weak, but the biggest thing with Wiggins was he talked about he tried to use the religious excuse, like the religious exclusion or whatever the thing's called.
Yeah, same thing everybody else was doing.
Yeah. So he was trying to play
All
that
of a sudden,
card.
people are walking around with Bibles.
Right, exactly. And then when he was like, hey, I'm doing this for my team, I'm getting it, people were like, oh, well, what happened to your religious thing? Like, that was the first response. But then after a while, when he said, like, I'm doing this for my team, not I'm doing it because like the NBA is forcing me to, not I'm doing it because my owner is forcing me to, or my coach is forcing me to. You just got to come out and say, I want to help my teammates. We all want to win a ring. And then boom, you're in the better graces. You're doing this because of the team, not because of yourself. And you're not saying that you agree with the vaccine. If that's your thing, if you want to say you don't want to agree with it, whatever. I mean, I have different opinions about that, but I'm not going to waste my time here with all that because you're not going to change anyone's opinion at this point. But
no,
just you don't have to agree with it to still like get it and just go play. I mean, because the other thing is you can be an idiot like Aaron Rodgers and say you got immunized when you didn't get immunized because you got COVID. And then try and say like, oh, I did these osteopathic ways that they said was like the vaccine, when it's like, no, to get immunized, to get truly immunized, it's either the vaccine or you get COVID.
I feel like
and
you're
then
saying that word
get
weird.
Antibodies. Is that?
Immunized.
I feel like I've never even seen that word until COVID times.
Yeah, I don't know if that's even. I don't know. I think
I don't know.
It sounded good.
Yeah,
and weird at the same time. Yeah, immunized.
But it's just like there's only two ways. It's either get COVID or get the vaccine, or you're not. You don't have antibodies. So the big thing is don't like lie about getting a vaccine or anything. because then you even look more of you look like more of an asshole. So just say you're doing it for your team, just get it and just play basketball, move on with it. Boom, it's all done. Then it's finally like, especially if the Nets start winning, then it's like Kyrie's back, Brooklyn's winning, they're on their way to the finals, he's the hero, blah blah blah. It's not that bad.
I'm going to be a conspiracy theorist. Now, I don't know if I've said this openly and publicly on our podcast. I know I've said this to you before, but I think this is all a work. I think the Nets and Kyrie are both kind of doing this to keep him off the floor, to keep him free from ailments.
I do remember you saying that. And I mean, that definitely could be true because, I mean, when we talk about guys in street clothes,
he would have been hurt by now.
Exactly.
I mean, you really just need him to get to the Nets are hanging in there without him. Yeah, true. They have issues and things like that. Harden's not getting his foul calls and blah, blah, blah. But the Nets are good enough right now, and they're starting to find their groove. Yeah, they lost the other night to Chicago and things like that, but they're starting to find their groove to the point where they could get into the 3-4, 3-5, whatever seed without Kyrie. And then if you bring Kyrie back toward the end of the season and get these guys some playing time together, that could work out actually perfectly.
True. And right now, the Nets' fortunes depend more on James Harden than they do Kyrie right now.
Well, it depends on whether James Harden's going to get a damn foul call or not.
Well, yeah, but also if James Harden gets back to the level that we're used to seeing of James Harden, because he doesn't look 100% healthy. Like, there's been plays where it looks like he's still trying to save his hamstring.
Yeah, he doesn't look. He looks kind of. He's lost his step. It looks like he looks very sluggish.
Yeah,
more so,
and he looks tentative too.
Yeah, he doesn't look like the guy that he used to look. He looks more fragile.
Right.
So, I think though that a lot of his decrease in production this season, though, I think this new foul rule is ridiculous. I think nobody knows what the hell a foul is anymore. I don't think the players know what a foul is anymore. I don't think the refs know what a foul call is. The refs are scared to call fouls because they're too focused on enforcing the rules. And this is where we're at with that.
Yeah. No, it is. It's kind of a slippery slope because I feel like a lot of refs are now missing normal foul calls just because they're trying not to call the fouls that they were calling before with these new changes. So now they're just missing normal fouls.
They're like Ben Simmons in the playoff. They're scared to death to do anything.
Exactly. And it kind of sucks too because a lot of it is still like a judgment call. Like at the Sixers game against the Knicks, I forget who it was. I think it was Seth Curry. He went to shoot a corner three and his natural motion was moving forward and the defender hit his leg and they called an offensive foul for a kick out.
Yeah, nobody has a clue.
Yeah, so it was just like that kind of thing is such a split-second judgment call, and now you give more judgment calls because you can't call these certain ones, but you should call the other ones. So,
and then there's these guys who get called for this hooking, and that they can't stop, and you know what I mean. So there's just. It's just can we figure this shit out, please? This is why computers are going to take over.
True.
You know, when they said,
I will say though, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Terminator.
Oh yeah.
This is why this shit happens because humans aren't. There's really no difference between a human being and a monkey. We're not really that different. We're just, we think we're advanced because we can build all this stupid crap. But when it comes down to it, we're still doing the same shit that monkeys are doing. Just we're more advanced. This is why we need computers in our lives, because computers don't make mistakes. Why do you think the MLB is talking about computers? Robot, like, because there's no error with that stuff.
Exactly. I mean, they're the biggest ones, especially with like strike zones and everything.
Yeah, nobody knows. They just guess everything.
Exactly. But I was just gonna leave it at the one new foul rule that I do like is the one where they like the ball handler like hooks on to the defender with their off arm and then they got a shooting foul for it. That was always annoying.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This hook. Like, I've heard the word hook so many times already. For some reason, they're just talking about hooking. And I'm like, is this hockey? Like, are we hooking? You know what I mean? Like, that's hooking and people jumping into other people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's the rule now. You're not getting the call, but there are times when they don't do that, and now they're not getting a call.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's where the discrepancy is. Like, Harden has been getting. There's been so many times this guy has not been getting a call.
Yeah. Oh no, it's true. I mean, there's a lot of guys that just aren't getting calls in general. Even like down low in the post and everything, a lot of big men that aren't getting calls down there. So it's like, what is even the incentive of going down the post if you're not even going to get a foul call and you're getting beat up at the same time?
Right.
So, yeah, I agree. So, real quick, we got two quick topics. The Knicks.
I could change a thing. There you
go. The Knicks are losing all their big men. Mitch Robinson, I think, is
no, he's back.
Questionable. Oh, is he back?
Yeah,
okay.
He's back.
I watched Noel get rolled up on his knee, so Noel's out for a while.
No, and the thing is, Noel has been out.
Yeah, he that was only like his second or third game back. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was like his third game back. He was out with back issues, and then now he's out again. But thankfully, Mitchell Robinson was able to make his way back, and old man Gibson's going to have to see some work here.
I know. So that being said, the Knicks have been kind of slowing down a little bit. They haven't been as hot as they were to start the season off. The offense hasn't looked as good as it did. Defense is still good because it's a Tibbs run defense. The thing with the Knicks to me right now is like it feels as though they don't know whether to run the offense through Randall, run the offense through RJ Barrett, or just like have a free-flowing offense that's going through everybody and everyone's contributing. Because, like, against the Sixers, Randall was great. 32 points, 15 rebounds, whatever. But then against some of the other better teams that they played, RJ Barrett was their top man. Randall wasn't hitting anything. Kemba wasn't doing well. Derrick Rose was okay. Fournier wasn't even hitting the broadside of a barn.
And that's a surprise. I mean,
not the Fournier one, but
that's what I was saying all along. Everybody was fooled by Fournier had that great game to start the season. Remember, they was it that first game they went into like double overtime or something with the Celtics, and everybody was going, "Holy shit!" And I'm like, "Nah, don't worry. It's only a matter of time before he gets back to where he is." And so, and then Kemba Walker's not looking that good. RJ Barrett's not consistent enough to where you can run an offense through him. Derrick Rose is too old, so you got to start looking to Julius Randle. He's their best player by far.
Oh yeah, and I think they're another team that's going to have to make some sort of move to actually be considered a real contender.
Well, and I knew too. I mean, they barely beat the Bulls.
Yeah,
and the Bulls are still trying to figure things out, but the Knicks have pretty much been the same team for a while, and they barely beat the Bulls. And I with the way things have been going now with New York, they lost to the Raptors, the Pacers. They beat a shorthanded Bucks, and then they lost to the Cavs, and then they beat the Sixers, who the Sixers have also been shorthanded. So they're not really impressing anybody.
Right. And they barely beat the Sixers. They were up by a lot. The Sixers came all the way back, and they barely beat them. Like, they needed they needed all 30 some points of Julius Randle just to beat them because they only had like 2 other players in double digits. And that was a Sixers team without Joel, Tobias, Thibault, Danny Green, Isaiah Joe. Like the whole team was out.
You want to know something though about the Sixers though, is that really with all these injuries, you don't realize how good their bench is.
Yeah. No, their bench has stepped up insanely. I mean, and Maxey too.
And then holy shit, Andre Drummond.
Oh, the last 2 games, Andre Drummond was the last 2 games, I think he's averaging 15 points, 21 rebounds.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great player, and people forgot how good he is. Mm-hmm. I never forgot, and I know some people didn't forget, but let's just remember he was playing on some crappy teams for a while. He was playing on Detroit for a while. He got a run in Cleveland. He went to the Lakers, which isn't the best team on the planet. So, I mean, arguably, this might be the best team he's in. And by picking him up and bringing him in was the addition to any team of the offseason. That was the best pickup anybody could ever done because we knew it was only a matter of time before Embiid was going to be sidelined, even though this time it wasn't his fault. When I saw he was going to miss several games, I was ready to bust everybody's balls and tell you, hey, look at your piece of shit. Like he literally is hurt again. But, you know, this is probably the best thing that ever, I shouldn't call him a piece of shit, but I don't like him. But
I know.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit. He was right in the injury report leading up to it with, you know, knee injuries and all that other stuff. So this is probably the best thing that ever happened to him is getting COVID.
Yeah, true. But it's also him and George Niang have been great signings. I mean, George Niang in the last like 4 games is putting up like 20 points a game.
Yeah, well, honestly, they don't really have anybody who can score, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, but Niang is shooting better from 3 and doing much better things than I ever expected him to do.
Well, apparently Joel Embiid said the same way because he said he thought he sucked before he came to Philly.
Yeah, I saw that. That's one thing I do love about Embiid. Yeah, that's one thing I do love about Embiid too is he's so honest in his interviews. He's just like, oh, I thought this guy was terrible, but hey, he's good now.
I just don't like him because I don't know. I'm a Nets guy. I just don't. So natural. If he played for the Nets, then you would see me being, oh, I love Joel Embiid, but I don't like him. Yeah.
He's one of those quintessential players that you love if he's on your team, you hate if he's not.
Right. Except for Kyrie, I hate him regardless of where he is.
Exactly. So last topic real quick. Pascal Siakam is
Chinese
back.
Buffet.
Oh, I'd love a Chinese buffet right now. That'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Pascal Siakam is back. He had an okay game when he returned. Do you think?
I think that was more than okay. 25 minutes, 4 boards, 2 blocks, 15 points across 25 minutes. I think that's pretty good for a guy who hasn't played in a long time.
Yeah. Outside of the scoring, I thought it was a good game. He just took a lot of shots to get to 15 points. I mean, 12 shots to get to 15 points is a bit much. But all being said, it's still a decent debut from how long he's been out.
Yeah, and then he played 25 minutes too, which is more than I expected him to even play. But that came out of nowhere because last week they were saying Embiid or Siakam's on his way back, and then all of a sudden one day he's just in the lineup. And I'm like,
I know.
How the fuck did this happen?
And when he was in the lineup, I was like, oh, he'll get 20 minutes at the most, like max 20 minutes.
Sorry, I mean, and then say the F word.
It's all good. So then he gets that, and I'm just like, wow. I guess they're just like, oh, throwing him in. But with him back, does this mean playoffs for the Raptors, or are you still on the fence about it?
I don't know. They look pretty damn good.
They do.
They've been looking pretty damn good. And I think Scotty Barnes he's fitting in well. Now that Siakam's back, it's natural he's going to take he's going to see a decline from an offensive standpoint. Not that he really had a whole shit ton to offer in that area, anyways, because he's like a Ben Simmons 2.0 where he just can't shoot. But I mean, defensively, he had like 5 steals, I think, the other day. And then defensively and on the glass, I mean, this guy's a real deal.
Oh yeah, and I just like when they put Siakam at center and Barnes at the 4, and then they had Trent, OG, and Van Vliet. That's just a fun lineup. I mean, the length, the athleticism, the defense, and then even the offense that it can create, especially because Barnes is a pretty good facilitator on top of everything. And then Van Vliet is a decent facilitator. OG's been stepping up. Trent's a good shooter. Siakam, we know he has offense. Like, that's a fun squad, especially when Nick Nurse is throwing random ass defenses at people. Like, he's throwing 2-3 zones and 3-2 zones and man and full court and like box and one. The team is just fun to watch right now.
Yeah, that might be his best chance of actually saving his ass is by just not rolling with the same lineup every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So who gives a shit? Throw Goran Dragic out there and have him start one game. Who cares?
Exactly.
What do you have to lose?
He still has centers that he can actually play. Like, he still can throw Kem Birch in there. He can throw Precious Achua in there. He can throw
Boucher.
Boucher in there. Yeah. Like, there's still actual big men he can put in, but right now it's just kind of like, why not go with the young, fast, lengthy people?
Yeah, no, I think Siakam looked pretty good, and we'll see what's going to happen with that. But yeah, it's nice to see it back because nobody wants to see anybody be sidelined because of some bullshit injury.
Yeah, completely agree. But I think that is it for us, unless you have anything else you want to get off your chest.
Nah, nobody really cares anyway, so.
It's exactly how I feel too. But
nobody listens. I could bitch all day, nobody would care.
Oh yeah, no, it's right. That's why I sit in my office. I bitch to myself because I listen to myself, but nobody else wants to hear it. You know?
I listened to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
When Mike came out to us and told us about a sex change, we were listening to him. We were the ones.
We accepted him.
We encouraged him. You know what? Thailand is good for that type of stuff.
I hear Thailand's pretty nice.
I don't want to find out. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving.
Yeah, I'm staying.
Yeah.
But on that note, that is it for us. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching another episode of The Atlantic Files, the #1 podcast and the #1 division in the NBA, brought to you by the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. If you're watching on YouTube, and even if you're not, go to YouTube, subscribe right below, drop a like, hit the bell notification and get all the videos directly sent to your notifications. And we are everywhere you get your podcasts. So please subscribe, give a rating and review. It helps us out a lot. So, thank you.
I was going to say, yeah, before you watch the pimple popping videos, just hit the subscribe button.
Exactly. We know everyone likes the pimple popping videos. We know you're going to go watch the Jokic versus Morris fight. Like, YouTube's a great place, but just drop a subscribe before you go watch.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And we'll catch you guys next week. Peace.